Hello, this is Bad Vibes. Today's video is a tad short. I lost my reading glasses the other day and basically my eyes hurt like hell. But hopefully I find them soon. Yesterday, we reached 40k, which is crazy, and I really appreciate all you who have hit that subscribe button over the last 2 years or so. So here's to 50k. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Back in 2016, I was living with my then boyfriend's family in their home in Melbourne, Australia. Each morning I would wake up and be the only one home. On this particular morning, I woke up to a loud banging and clashing at the back of the house. I decided to ring my boyfriend's mom, just to make sure it was her and it was nothing to worry about. Unfortunately for me, she didn't answer my phone call. Out of curiosity, I peeked through the blinds of my bedroom. My bedroom backed up onto the back of the house. I happened to see the top of someone's head, or what seemed to be a gray beanie. At that moment, my phone rang. It was my boyfriend's mom. She wasn't home, and said she wasn't sure what the banging was. I asked her if her daughter could have possibly forgotten her keys, and maybe was trying to get in the back of the house. She told me that she wasn't sure. End of the conversation. At that point, I was a little on edge. I suffer from anxiety and overthink everything. I decided I might need something to defend myself, just in case. Having been in the process of painting my room, I had nothing but a pillow to protect myself. I decided to have another peek out the blinds to see what was going on. As I pulled the blinds open, I was looking straight at a young man dressed in all gray. He looked at me dead in the eyes and just smiled at me. He then proceeded to walk back to the back door. At this point, I'm panicking. The banging is getting more intense, and I know that this person is trying to break in, and definitely knows I'm here now. So what do? I lock my bedroom door. The banging stops. I'm thinking, okay, he's given up. Then I heard the sliding door that connects to my room roll open so slowly. My heart is in my throat. I know I'm in some form of danger. Then my bedroom door handle slowly rotates, but it's locked. Then I hear a female faintly calling my name. It was my boyfriend's sister. She's been home all along. We come out to see that this man has nearly succeeded in entering the house. The door frame was torn off the wall, and the sliding door is off the tracks. My dog hiding under the couch. We call 000 and have 2 squad cars to the house within 3 minutes. Anyway, he's never caught. A couple weeks later, my number plates are stolen. My car was in the driveway of the house that day of the attempted break-in. Weeks and weeks after, I'm followed by a young man in a van. He follows me to the petrol station and makes a note of stopping his car and smiling at me. He stops his car in peak hour traffic to get a glimpse of me. He was hanging around the front of my house, neighbor's house, and street for the weeks following the incident. Everything was reported to the police, his registration, but the plates he had were fake. Nothing ever came from this. I moved, bought a new car, and haven't had an issue since. I now have a huge fear of being home alone in general. I was 15 when this happened, so I think it's safe for me to post this without fearing that the individual in the story might come across this post and find me. I was laying in bed watching TV. I had the house to myself as my mom went out to get groceries. When the credits of the show came on, I saw a reflection in the black screen of someone standing in my doorway. The moment I saw the figure, I froze. I was completely paralyzed with fear, to the point where my head started heating up. I felt like I was about to faint. Somehow, I racked up the nerve to turn my head to see if someone was actually there. To my relief, there was nobody. I guess I was just seeing things, or so I thought. I went back to watching TV when 10 minutes later I received a text from my neighbor letting me know that Charlie, my dog, was out on the street. My neighbor is really old and has poor eyesight, so I assumed that he was mistaking Charlie for another dog. I nonetheless looked around to confirm Charlie's absence. After calling his name and receiving no response, I stood up and headed downstairs towards the living room, as Charlie likes to rest there. On my way down, I noticed the front door open. I got chills. It was at this moment I realized the figure I had seen earlier wasn't just me seeing things. I immediately proceed to walk out the door, but as I proceed, the sound of footsteps running down the stairs could be heard from my position. I bolted out of there as fast as I could and ran straight to my neighbor's house. I told him what just happened, to which he responded by calling the police. The police came to my house and inspected the place. They couldn't find anyone, except for a switchblade which the intruder must have dropped as he bolted out of the house upon hearing the sirens of the police cars about a mile away. If it wasn't for my neighbor's text, I'm sure I would have made the headlines. So I'm a 20-year-old, and what I'm about to tell you happened about 2 hours ago. I felt the need to write down what happened. So basically, I was on a video conference when suddenly someone rang my doorbell. I opened the door without taking the time to see who's behind the door first. When I open the door, I see a tall man, looks like he's in his 60s. He's got a black hat, a bag, and a black 3/4 coat, and his left hand was behind him, so I wasn't able to see it. When I opened the door, he asked me about my mom at first. I said that she's not home yet, so he asked about my dad right after. He was sleeping and hates when people wake him up, so I said he wasn't there. When I said that, the man started approaching the door smiling in a creepy way. I panicked and said he was actually sleeping, so the man took a step back and stared at me for about 5 seconds without saying any words, but still smiling the creepiest smile I've ever seen. After that, I asked him to tell me his name, but he didn't react, and his smile was getting even creepier. My dad woke up and asked me who was at the door. The man heard his voice, so he took off, throwing whatever he had in his hand hiding behind his back into the bag, and then he left. I didn't really get what was going on, so I just shut the door. My dad asked me about the man, so I told him what happened. My dad ended up calling one of our neighbors. After that, we heard the same man had tried to break into the apartments near our house. They attempted to catch him, but he ran away. I'm still trying to figure out what he intended to do if I was alone. This happened when I was 5 years old. It was late and my mom was folding laundry. My dad was early on the internet scene, so he was on the computer in the basement. Out of nowhere, a man walked into my house. He didn't say anything, and my mom was terrified for her children that were asleep, as well as herself. He cornered her into the kitchen, and my mom was terrified that he was going to rape her. He went to cover her mouth, and they moved from the living room to the kitchen. My mom yelled my dad's name, and he came upstairs right away. Usually he would wait a few minutes to finish something, but something about my mom's voice made him aware of the danger. He came upstairs and said something like, "You're in the wrong house." The guy tried to apologize, saying that the address was a mistake or something. My mom has always said my dad saved her from being raped or worse. They called the police, but nothing ever came of it. Right now, as of posting this, it's 7:04 in the morning, and I can't go back to sleep because of this. I'm a 14-year-old male. I woke up roughly around 6:30 a.m. and looked out my window. I see a guy, tall, skinny, dressed in all black, and he's in the neighbor behind me's backyard. He was just staring at the ground very shakily. I was also staring at him through the bedroom window. About 30 seconds after this encounter, he sees me out of my bedroom window and starts staring at me, and honestly at this point, I'm scared shitless. So I wake up my dog because the fence between the house behind me is a short chain link fence. I go downstairs to get my mom. We both look outside, but he's gone. This guy just vanished.
I went to college in a historic mid-sized city in Florida, and at the time lived in a duplex downtown, maybe 3 blocks from campus. The city is known to be pretty safe, and I lived in a pretty decent area with large historic homes near me. This story takes place about 3 years ago. A little backstory that will become relevant. The duplex I lived in had a front door that locked, and then both the upstairs and downstairs units had their own locking door. I lived downstairs and had 2 roommates, but this specific night only one of my roommates was home. We knew the girls that lived upstairs, but only really spoke to them in passing. When they moved in, we emphasized how important it was for them, to keep the main front door locked. And they did a good job of doing so. So me and my roommate are in for the night, knowing the front door is locked, and smoke a few joints. At some point we hear a knock at the front door, and quickly realize the girls upstairs had ordered a pizza. Later on, it becomes evident that they never locked the front door after receiving their pizza. So we finally go to sleep in our own rooms, and since I had a queen bed, I would often sleep with my phone and laptop next to me in my bed. A couple hours after I fall asleep, I woke to a man standing over my bed. As soon as I realize I'm not dreaming, I notice that he is quickly moving my phone and computer off of my bed and moving my comforter, trying to get into my bed. I start to ask him who he is, what he's doing here, and just generally confused. As I was still slightly high from before I went to sleep, the only thing he said to me multiple times was that he was just trying to get in bed. At this point, I begin to panic, as my mind obviously goes to the worst. I was hoping that maybe my roommate had invited some random Tinder guy over and that he had gone to the wrong room. But the more I questioned him, all he had to say was, "I'm just trying to get in bed." I own pepper spray and a stun gun, but I had accidentally left them on a shelf that the guy was standing in front of, so there was no way I'd be able to grab them without escalating the situation. Realizing I needed to do something quickly, I blurted, "There are 5 people who live in this house, and if you don't get the fuck out now, I will scream and they will all be here within seconds." Luckily, that's all it took to scare him off. I don't know if that had brought something with him or if he had stolen something from me, but I saw him grab something in the dark and run out of my room. As soon as he left my room, I shut the door and locked it, and tried to find my phone. I couldn't find it anywhere, but then quickly realized that between my room and the front door is the room of my friend that was home. As scared as I was terrified that the guy had maybe gone into her room. So I grabbed my stun gun and a pocket knife, counted to 3 and ripped open my door. I ran into my roommate's room, but she was fast asleep, and there was no evidence of the guy. I told her what happened, and she asked me if I was sure I wasn't dreaming. I began to question myself until I walked out of her room and saw that our front door was wide open. I went to my room to search for my phone, and finally found it, hidden under a pile of clothes across the room from where I had left it. That sent a chill up my spine, as I immediately knew for a fact someone had been in my house and room while I was sleeping, and long enough to hide my phone, which only worsened my suspicions of his intentions. I ran back to my roommate's room, who at that point believed me, barricaded ourselves into the room, and called 911. Within minutes, there were police cars swarming our street and yard, and they yelled for us to quickly leave the residence and run towards them. At least a dozen police officers came running in and searched every inch of our apartment, and woke the girls upstairs, and searched their apartment to ensure the man had left. The officers then had me write a statement, and I gave them a description of the man. And to this day, I've never heard a single thing about the case. I feel incredibly lucky with the outcome of the situation, but the thought of his intentions terrifies me. And additionally, the fact that he was never caught scares me, as I would hate for anyone to have to go through the pure fear that I did. I will add, there is a chance that he was on drugs or mentally ill and had no bad intentions. However, because he was never caught, I will never know, and my mind will always assume the worst. To the man who now keeps me up at night, let's not meet.